I just want to remind you today that there is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God, absolute good, everywhere present in its entirety.
Reverend Thomas de León, also Reverend Tommy, from Unity of Georgetown. And he is our guest minister for today, and he has a bio that is so interesting, I'm going to read it all to you. He was born in Donna, Texas, September 22nd, just last week, in 1952. He has been married for 43 of those years to Rosemary. Rosemary, who raised her hand for being here for the first time, actually. So she's getting twice the applause. There you go. That's good. And they have two grown children, Marcos and Marissa. Reverend Tommy served 10 years as spiritual leader at Unity Rio Grande Valley in Texas. Currently, he is in his second year as minister of Unity Spiritual Center in Georgetown. He served as treasurer of Unity South Central region for the last 3 years. That means you know about money. That's good. That's good. There you go. He is an honorably discharged U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran. Pause for the applause. He is a lifelong musician, drummer, and vocalist. There may be a space over there someday.
Not that good.
He has been a seeker for more than 40 years and has read everything from Edgar Cayce to the Baha'is, to Gibran, to Zen, to the Great Courses, to name a few. He also has a podcast of his Sunday Unity lessons with over 500,000 hits. And no surprise, he is fluent in Spanish. He's got a couple of degrees. He's a Dallas Cowboys and a Houston Astros fan. And his spiritual journey as a student of life continues every day. And he brings to us his wisdom. We'll hear from him later. Thank you, sir. We are delighted that you are here.
So I want to thank everybody. First of all, let me say good morning once again. Good morning. And I want to thank everyone here to Unity Church of the Hills for inviting me here, especially Reverend Cynthia and the board, of course. Now, I've had the opportunity to be in this facility a few times in the past, but I've never spoken. And I just got to say that I love this campus, and I love this gorgeous room, and I love the band. And I love the energy of this building, or I don't know, it's just, I guess, a portal, type thing. So during the week, I just couldn't remember exactly what time the service started, so I went on your website, and this is what it says about your 11:30 service. It says, this is the main Sunday service and offers positive, thought-provoking messages with upbeat, heart-opening music, along with limitless love, light, and laughter. I thought, perfect, I'm going to fit right in. Because I love music, I think I've made that quite clear, and thought-provoking is the very definition of my lessons, I have been told. And on top of that, I think laughter is a big deal. In fact, I use it as part of the service. We begin service, after the announcements and stuff, we begin service with what we call laughter is the best medicine, because we know now that, in fact, laughter is great medicine. I kind of think of it as shake, when you get static and stuff on your shirts or your sweaters or whatever, you kind of have to shake them off a little bit. Well, I kind of feel if it's like that because, we're out maneuvering in this manifest world, and we pick up all sorts of energies that, we need to shake off, basically. So if you will humor me, I'd like to start with a little bit of humor. And it's Ryder Cup weekend. I think we lost, right? Did we lose? We were losing. Anyway, this one is called Moses and Jesus Playing Golf. Funny already, right? So here's the deal. So Moses and Jesus are playing golf, and they got a par 3, and if you know a little bit of golf, it's a little bit lengthy, maybe let's say 185, 190, and it's pushing it, and there's water in the front. And Moses grabs his 5-iron, and he gets up there, and it hits the ball and gives it a really, really good whack. I mean, it's going right at the pin, and all of a sudden, boom, into the water. So it's Jesus' turn. Jesus grabs his 5-iron, and he says, Tiger Woods would use this club. And Moses tells him, didn't you just see what I did with that same club? I mean, really. Tiger Woods would use this club. But I think you're going, Tiger Woods would use this club. Fine, use the club. So there's Jesus, and he hits the ball. Again, beauty right down the middle, right into the water. So now we got Jesus walking on the water, looking for his golf ball. And along comes another golfer, and he tells Moses, who's that guy think he is, Jesus? And Moses says, oh, no, he's Jesus, all right. The problem is he thinks he's Tiger Woods. I love comedy, you know. When I was first contacted about speaking today, I was told that, no, October was going to be a review of the 5 principles, and that I could choose any one I want. I said, I'll take number 1. Let's just get this thing going, you know, right off the bat. And as you know, in Unity, we have no creed, we have no dogma, but we do have 5 principles that formulate our philosophy. And for the record, I'm a philosophy major. That's something I don't think Tim mentioned. And I find these principles particularly attractive because they represent our attempt to address some of the most fundamental questions that have puzzled mankind since we became self-aware. Questions such as, what is the nature of God? What is the nature of man? What is the nature of the universe? And what is the relationship between them all? The 5 principles offer our perspective of these questions, and they are a big part of what makes Unity so unique. And make no mistake about it, Unity is very unique. I'm not sure we realize just how unique we truly are. If I had to guess, I'm going to say what are there, about a couple of hundred churches, spiritual centers in the Austin area? And not a single one of them is like Unity. Because besides the 5 principles, we have 3 other, I'll just call them points of views, that further add to our distinct view of spirituality. They are major, and they are at the foundational level, meaning bedrock stuff. Number 1 is we teach a model of oneness. This is a really big deal, because it is in direct contrast to the entire rest of the Western theological world, which is based on a model of separation. And this model of oneness is firmly grounded in our first principle. The second major distinction is that we are love-based as opposed to fear-based. Likewise tied to principle number 1. I grew up a Catholic, and we know about the fear-based mentality of Catholicism. You know, it's the wait till your daddy gets home approach to spirituality. It is. And because of the fear of going to hell. That's the whole motive for everything. And the third is that we are, now think about this one, we are present-based. Have you ever thought about that? All the religions are future-based. The concern is about the afterlife. Where are you going to spend eternity if you die tonight? You know, it's one of those. And for us, we're here to try to improve our present life, our daily life, because we in Unity believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And as such, then the afterlife is kind of already taken care of. We want to improve the here and now. And so, there's one other. There really are 4. The 4th one is, we don't teach salvation. We teach transformation. And I saw it up there in one of the things, right? You know, when they asked Jesus, when will we see the kingdom? What did Jesus say? He said, behold, you're not going to see, here it is or there it is, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And so the thing is, it's not the kingdom of heaven is not coming. The kingdom of heaven is here. The question is, can you see it? Is the question. Honestly, I think Unity has this huge marketing problem. We really do. No, we do. Because on the one hand, there is, and I don't know if you know this, there is an 80-year decline in church attendance across the board. Everybody. And you might say that of Unity too. I don't really see it flourishing, even though we have this magnificent message. And I think we have a marketing problem. Because on the one hand, we have that decline, and on the other hand, we have more and more people identifying as nuns. Have you ever heard that term? A nun? Like, you know, when you say religious affiliation, and it has all this stuff, none of the above. So they're nuns. So more and more people are saying that they're spiritual, but not religious. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if it was last year or this year, one of the biggest, when people do resolutions at the beginning of the year, one of the big ones was to be more spiritual. People are looking for us. No, seriously. They just don't know that we exist. I didn't find Unity till I was 55 years old. And I'm a seeker. And the place is 20 miles away. We have a marketing problem. Because we really do have an entirely new way of seeing things. And that's what we need. I came up with a tagline, and we use it at Unity Georgetown. It says, welcome to Unity, a spiritual breath of fresh air. Right? Now, I'm certain that this room is filled with astute Unity students, but because it is the month for review, I want to just quickly cover the 5 principles before I get into the first one. Number 1, God is absolute good, everywhere present. Number 2, human beings are created in the image of God, and our very essence is divine. Therefore, we are inherently good. Number 3, we create our life experiences through the thoughts and the beliefs that we hold. Number 4, through affirmative prayer and meditation, we align with God, source, and we bring out the good in our lives. Number 5, I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. Now, sometimes you'll hear these stated slightly differently, but that doesn't change what they are. Now, the condensed version, if you want to get Reader's Digest, anybody who remembers Reader's Digest, the condensed version would be, God is, I am, I create, I align, pray with, and then I act. Now, there's something interesting about these 5 principles that I want to point out, and that is that they really have 2 tiers. Maybe you never thought about that. The first 2, God is and I am, are conceptual in nature. Think about that. And they are eternal. They are transcendent, non-material. And then, so one is saying that God is. And then the other one, the second one says, I am. I am created in that God isness. The following 3 then represent our interaction with this material world. I create, I align, I express. So they're the action part of it. So philosophically then, our 5 principles respond to the questions I brought up earlier. What is the nature of God? God is all there is. And it is absolute good. What is the nature of man? We are an expression of that oneness. And what is the nature of the universe? The universe is what we come to create, to express ourselves. Think of it as our canvas that we get to paint our life experiences in this manifest world. When I learned the 5 principles, nobody pointed out that little nuance of the distinction between the 2 levels, so I wanted to pass that on to you today. So you might, in Unity speak, you might say that the upper tier is mind and idea. The not mind and idea part of our divine order, right? And traditionally, as a Catholic, this would be the Father and the Son, mind, idea. The subsequent 3 then would be expression, the expression element part of that formula, if you will. Traditionally, it would be the Holy Spirit, or chi from the Eastern philosophies. So let's turn our attention now to principle number 1. God is absolute good everywhere present. God is absolute good everywhere present. Now, since I can't help myself, let me turn back to the topic of philosophy/theology and consider what are these 2 statements saying to us, because they're saying a lot. Let's start with the first half of that. God is absolute good. Let's suppose that that's true. Then what are we to make of the Old Testament God who sent plagues to groups of people, who wipes out entire cities, men, women, children, who demands proof of his people's fidelity? What are we to make of that God? What about a God that sends or is capable of sending someone to eternal damnation for the acts of a temporary life? You know, the Gnostics believe that that old God was not only not the real God, he wasn't even a very good God. Seriously, this is what the Gnostics believe because of the evidence around. What a mess. You know? But so these principles answer these questions about that. Because if God is absolutely good, then why is there evil in the world? That's a big philosophical problem and an issue. But we have a way of looking at that. In Unity, we would say that these stories really say a lot more about the consciousness of the people, of the writer, than about the nature of God. In other words, what I'm saying is that this is how they saw God, because that's where they were in their spiritual unfolding. So evil then is the explanation for evil for everybody in the West has always been, well, there's an opposing force. And this force, as you know, came in when Adam and Eve and all that stuff happened. But that's not a view that's shared by Unity, that there's an opposing force. Because principle 1 is affirming the very contrary, that although there appears to be evil, evil is true only of the dualistic 3D universe as an appearance. And it's only true as an error in perception. However, because what we perceive, we believe, and what we believe, we experience, then apparent evil is something mankind experiences. Be it done to you as you believe, said the Master Jesus. The point to be made here is that evil is not a power in and of itself. It does not have any power other than the power that we have given it through our collective belief system. But in Unity, we say, change your mind, change your world. And that's what we need to do. Scripture tells us to judge by righteous judgment. What does righteous judgment mean? It means to see things from the perspective of our spiritual nature, not our human nature. That's what that's trying to tell us. So theologically, there's a lot of problems with an opposing force. Because now, God is no longer all-powerful. And God is no longer everywhere present. The model of the universe of oneness falls apart, And we regress back to that old model of separation, which we do not believe in. So between the mystics and quantum physics, because I'm totally into quantum physics too, cosmology, all that stuff. I'm into all that stuff. We know now through tradition that everything is one. We've been told this all along, and the mystics has told us. All along they've told us this. Now quantum physics is telling us, yes, it's true. Everything's connected. Wow. So everything really is. There's only one presence and one power, whether you look at it now traditionally or empirically. Now this brings us to the second half of principle 1. That is the concept of God being everywhere present. Boy, I did a lesson a few years ago. It was called, What is God? And one day my brother, who was at the time, he was kind of doing the Jehovah's Witnesses, that's right, thing for a while. And he goes, brother, what's the name of the title of your lesson for this Sunday? And I said, what is God? And he said, you mean who is God, right? And I said, no, I mean, what is God? And so I made a note on that lesson that should be a very fairly obvious observation, but for some reason it's not. Traditionally, we've been told all along that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and everywhere present. So if that's true, which I have no reason to doubt that, then the question is not, what is God? The question is, what is not God? And the answer is nothing. Everything is God. What do we say in Unity? There is no spot where God is not, right? And I like to tell people, that includes hell. If we believed in such a thing. Because in Psalms 139, it says, if I ascend into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. So next time you talk to one of your traditional or evangelical buddies, tell them, I have a question for you. How does the concept of God being in hell work? Explain that to me, please. And I'm not being critical of other points of view. I'm a philosophy major. We ask questions. It's simple as that. So in Unity, as you know, we do not have a devil as an entity or as an opposing force. That is not consistent with the model of oneness that we uniquely teach here in Austin, Texas. So as our consciousness has changed, so too has our understanding of God. But we have work to do because we have a subconscious mind, and in that subconscious mind, it's a closet, and it's fit. Go look at your closet. That's what your subconscious mind looks like, filled with these old ideas, as we say in Unity, that no longer serve you. And so, how many are familiar with spiral dynamics? A little bit, right? I don't know a lot about it, but I know a little bit about it. It is a model of evolutionary development, it says, for individuals, organizations, and societies. It is how we unfold spiritually in this case, since we're talking about spirituality. Simply put, these old ideas of a God, of a devil or a hell or an opposing force are really the consciousness of another mentality from long ago that we in Unity have outgrown. It doesn't make any sense to us anymore. That's why we're in Unity. We find a better way to understand these things. Our understanding of this one presence and one power is better, but it's not complete, and it may never be. Because I personally think we're on an infinite spiritual journey, and there will always be more. Always, by definition. But I've got a mantra, and my mantra is that we have got to change the way that we see things. And I think language is one of them. And at Unity Georgetown, I've been very mindful of that to tell people, in the metaphysics book at the beginning, there's a section, and it's called the language of oneness. And because we teach that words have power. And on top of that, 95% of the time, we are operating from our subconscious mind. So you say a word and boom, It just comes, roaring out. Open the floodgates of these old thoughts, old ways of seeing things. And so we have to work on this way of seeing things with a new language. And so at the beginning of the lesson, I talked about thought-provoking messages. So in closing, let me share a few thought-provoking ideas about this one presence and this one power. Let's begin with Eric Butterworth, the words he has in the Discover the Power Within You. He says, God is not like a raisin in a bun. You've read that, right? Meaning it's not something in something. It is that essence that is expressing as us. The early theologians struggled with this idea of God being everywhere because they had that old belief of a God as an entity. Sure, the supreme being, but nevertheless a thing nonetheless. And Meister Eckhart says, God is not a being. God is beingness. I said, wow, that's a thought-provoking idea. It also dispels the notion of God in heaven, again, in a place, or the idea of God existing only in one man. I'm sure you considered, how is that possible? How does that work? Listen to this. The French philosopher Voltaire wrote, God is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. I said, yeah, that's a thought-provoking thought. There's a word in philosophy called pantheism, and that means that everything is God. God is everything. Me, you, trees, grass, everything. In Unity, we have another word very similar. It's called panentheism. And that means that, yeah, God is everything and then some. It's more than the sum of the parts. It also means, in Unity, we believe that God is both immanent. You know, when we said God is out, when Jesus was around, everybody believed that heaven was out there. And Jesus says, no, heaven is in here. Well, the fact is, heaven is both out there and in here. Immanent and transcendent, it's called. That's what we teach in Unity, panentheism. Let me share something quickly about this change of oneness to the language of oneness, which in this case, this example, takes out the anthropomorphic reference to God, which is something we really, really got to work on. Traditionally, we've been told that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. But with a simple adjustment, all that changes. Listen to this. God is not omnipotent. God is omnipotence. God is not omnipresent. God is omnipresence. God is not omniscient. God is omniscience. The point here is that God is not something with something, a supreme being with attributes. That is a hard thing to get rid of. I mean, I admit it, Catholic upbringing, it's hard to change that perspective, that point of view. But we have to try, because that's what we're here to do, to find a way to transform ourselves. And it starts with how we see things and the language that we use to do it. So let me leave you with one final one that I've been searching, as we said, for a long time. Since the 70s, I was reading Zen and all these things. But this one really got my attention, this thought-provoking thought. It is this, about God being everywhere. God is everywhere in its entirety. What? In it, what? It's in you, it's in me, it's in a blade of grass, it's in a cell, it's in the cosmos, it's in a molecule, in a quark. In its entirety. Wow. And now quantum physics talks about non-locality. You've heard that, right? Non-locality is that everything is everywhere all the time. Geesh. The only difference is like where, it's like you have cable TV. So you got all the channels. It's like, but which one are you tuned into? Are you tuned into the heaven channel? No, but we're working on it. I think my cable installer is coming tomorrow to add that to my TV. I don't know. So I just want to remind you today that there is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God, absolute good, everywhere present in its entirety. Can I get a little music, please? Let's take some time now to contemplate the words of today's message. I invite you to just kind of really get yourself nice and cozy, comfortable in your chair. And if you're okay with closing your eyes, I'll ask you to do that as well. We begin by taking some slow, deep breaths. And we start being aware consciously of the intake of that air into our body and the release of that air. And if it helps, you can do a simple technique of counting to 4 slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can hold 4, and then you can release 4. And you can do this a couple of times. And every time you do this, you start noticing that with each breath, you become more and more relaxed into this now moment. Make a shift now of consciousness to your attention to the here and the now. Notice the sounds about you. Me, the piano, whatever else you hear. Be in the present. And as we do that, we naturally open up ourselves to the flow of this divine energy that's moving through us. And you picture that energy flowing through you in the same way that the blood flows through your system. If any time you get wayward thoughts come into your mind, then just gently pull them back and remind yourself of the breathing. And that'll help you come back to the present. You do this as many times as you need, and it helps you remain in the present. Think about now what about that lesson? What thing maybe just jumped out and you said, wow, never thought about that, or something that just kind of helped in your transformative process. And be aware of every experience, of every thought, of every day, expanding your awareness, your consciousness. And feel free to ride that thought, just like you would ride an airplane or something. And every moment of every day, remind yourself that you are grateful to be living this life in this beautiful planet and sharing in this beautiful spiritual community this morning. Nothing expands your spirituality as much as gratitude. It is the door that opens you up to a bigger world. Let me share a couple of words from 5 Principles book at the end called Meditation. I enter into the stillness to align myself with the one mind, the one presence that permeates all of creation. I feel myself as part of this creation, connected to all of nature. I am the light and the darkness. I am the oceans and the land. I am the rocks and the trees, the fish and the birds, the beasts of the earth. I am one with every human being on this planet. In this oneness, I sense the order of all things. I feel the divine love that moves in me and every molecule of the cosmos. I know the divine intelligence that is the foundation of all there is or ever will be. I am one with all. I invite you to take these thoughts into the silence. When you are ready, gently return to this presence. Open your eyes and return to this wonderful space that we have created this morning. A space of peace and love and harmony and oneness. And with the last big deep breath, we say, thank you, Spirit. And so it is.
Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful.